Remember those little plastic trinkets we used to be able to print? Like,
Yeah.
the ones that always kind of seem to end up a little wonky?
Yeah,
3D printing has come a long way since then.
it really has.
Yeah. So this time we're deep diving into how this tech is shaking up engineering and construction. The revolution of 3D printing and additive manufacturing in engineering.
A great source.
Yeah. And it's not just about quirky gadgets anymore. We're talking about a potential revolution in how we build everything from homes to get this, maybe even habitats on other planets.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's truly fascinating how 3D printing, or additive manufacturing, to use a technical term, is fundamentally changing our approach to construction.
Yeah.
Instead of that traditional method of removing material to create a shape, we're essentially building objects from the ground up layer by layer.
It's like the difference between sculpting, where you're chipping away at a block of marble, and 3D printing is more like assembling a structure, brick by brick. But instead of bricks, it's these incredibly thin layers of material.
Right.
And the materials themselves are evolving rapidly, right?
Absolutely. We've moved beyond simple plastics. And now we're seeing concrete, metal alloys, even composites being used in 3D printing.
Wow.
This opens up a whole new world of possibilities in terms of design and functionality.
So it's not just about building faster, it's about building differently and potentially building better.
Precisely. Take, for example, the aerospace industry. This excerpt highlights how there are now 3D printing engine brackets that are lighter and more fuel efficient than anything created with traditional methods. That's a direct result of being able to design and create these complex geometries that would be impossible to manufacture otherwise.
And this layer-by-layer approach, it must significantly reduce waste compared to traditional subtractive manufacturing, right?
Absolutely. Think about all the excess material that gets cut away and discarded in traditional manufacturing. With additive manufacturing, you're only using the material you need exactly where you need it. It's a huge win for sustainability, especially in industries like construction that have traditionally had a large environmental footprint.
And speaking of construction, that's where things get really interesting. This source mentions we can now 3D print entire buildings.
Yeah.
That's not just some futuristic concept, it's happening right now.
It is remarkable. The world's largest 3D printed house, built in Germany, stands as a testament to just how far this technology has come. What's truly astounding is the speed of construction. What might take months using traditional building methods was completed in a matter of days with 3D printing.
Days versus months, that's a game changer. I'm already thinking about the implications for affordable housing, disaster relief efforts. Could you walk us through how this actually works on a larger scale? I mean, I get the concept with a small plastic gadget, but a whole house.
Imagine a giant robotic arm, essentially a massive 3D printer on a construction site.
It's fed with a concrete mixture, and guided by a computer model, it precisely extrudes this concrete layer by layer, following the building's blueprint.
It's like a high-tech automated bricklayer, but instead of bricks, it's laying down these ribbons of concrete to build up the walls.
That's a great way to visualize it. And these aren't just simple boxy structures. We're talking about curved walls, intricate details, all made possible by the precision and flexibility of 3D printing.
So we're talking about potential revolution in affordable housing, disaster relief, all thanks to this speed and efficiency. But this source also mentioned something about 3D printing's impact on material waste in construction. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Traditional construction generates an incredible amount of waste. Think about all the offcuts, the unused materials, the packaging. It's a significant contributor to landfill. 3D printing, on the other hand, is remarkably efficient in its use of materials because you're building layer by layer. You only use what you need exactly where you need it.
So less waste means lower costs, and it's a win for the environment as well. Precisely. And it goes beyond simply using less material. There's a growing movement within 3D printing to explore the use of recycled and sustainable materials.
So we could be looking at a future where we're 3D printing buildings, using recycled plastics, or even construction debris.
Imagine taking demolition waste, processing it, and then using it as the ink for a 3D printer to create new structures. It's a closed-loop system that could dramatically reduce the construction industry's reliance on virgin materials.
That's incredible. It sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any challenges or limitations with 3D printing in construction that we should be aware of?
Well, like any emerging technology, 3D printing in construction has its own set of hurdles to overcome. One of the primary challenges at this point is the initial cost of the equipment. Industrial-grade 3D printers, particularly those capable of working with concrete and other building materials, represent a significant investment. This can pose a barrier to entry for smaller construction firms.
So access to this revolutionary technology is still somewhat limited. What are some of the other hurdles?
Regulation is another significant factor. The construction industry is highly regulated, and understandably so. We need to ensure that the buildings we construct are safe and meet strict building codes. But these regulations were, for the most part, written with traditional construction methods in mind.
I hadn't considered that. So how do we ensure that 3D printed buildings meet the same safety and quality standards?
That's a question a lot of people are working on right now. There's a global effort underway to develop specific standards and testing protocols for 3D printed structures. It's all about making sure that these innovative buildings are at least as safe, if not safer, than their traditionally constructed counterparts.
It makes sense that regulations would need to evolve alongside the technology. Are there any limitations with the printable materials themselves?
That's another area where there's still room for advancement. While the range of materials we can 3D print with is constantly expanding, there are still some traditional building materials that haven't been successfully adapted for 3D printing.
So we can print concrete walls, but we're not quite at a point where we can print, say, steel beams or large glass panels.
Exactly. However, research and development in this area are incredibly active. What we can achieve with 3D printing today was unimaginable just a few short years ago. For example, we're already seeing promising developments in 3D printing with metal alloys, which could revolutionize how we approach large-scale infrastructure projects.
It's amazing to think that we could one day be printing bridges or even the skyscrapers on site.
Imagine the possibilities, especially for projects in remote or challenging environments. 3D printing could reduce the need to transport heavy materials over long distances and open up new frontiers for construction.
This source even touched on using 3D printing to build habitats on Mars, which just seems mind-boggling.
The potential applications of 3D printing in space exploration are truly exciting. The ability to use local resources like Martian soil to construct shelters and other structures could be a game changer for establishing sustainable human presence on other planets.
We've covered so much ground here. From the basics of how this technology works to its incredible potential to transform industries and even push the boundaries of human exploration. It's clear that 3D printing is poised to have a profound impact on the future of design and construction. But what are some of the specific developments on the horizon that you find particularly intriguing?
One area that I'm particularly passionate about is the potential for mass customization in housing. Imagine a world where you could design your dream home, tailoring every detail to your preferences and needs, and then have it 3D printed to your exact specifications.
So instead of being limited to pre-designed floor plans and standardized options, we could have homes that are as unique as the people who live in them.
Precisely. And while this level of personalization might seem like a distant dream, the technology is rapidly evolving in that direction. We're moving towards a future where homes are no longer mass-produced, but rather mass-personalized, thanks to the power of 3D printing.
Mass personalization, that's a fantastic way to put it. It's like taking the concept of bespoke tailoring and applying it to our living spaces.
Exactly. It's about empowering people to become active participants in the design process, to have a real say in shaping their built environment, and it goes beyond just aesthetics. We could see homes that are 3D printed to be incredibly energy efficient, to adapt to different climates and lifestyles, and even to incorporate sustainable materials and technologies seamlessly into their design.
It sounds like we're talking about a future where technology empowers us to create more sustainable, resilient, and personalized living spaces. It's like we're on the cusp of a paradigm shift in how we think about housing. We're moving away from a one-size-fits-all model to something far more adaptable and responsive to individual needs and desires.
It is, and this shift has the potential to be incredibly empowering, particularly for communities that have historically been underserved by traditional construction methods.
Could you elaborate on that? What are some of the potential social impacts of this shift toward mass personalization in housing?
Imagine, for example, a community in a remote area, or perhaps a community recovering from a natural disaster. 3D printing could empower them to design and build their own homes, using locally sourced materials and tailoring the designs to their specific cultural preferences and needs.
It's fascinating to think about how this technology could be used not just to build structures, but to rebuild communities and empower people to take control of their built environment. It's not just about bricks and mortar, it's about people.
Exactly, and that human element is something that often gets overlooked in discussions about technology. It's not just about what we can build, but who we can empower, and how this technology can be used to address some of the most pressing challenges facing our world today, from affordable housing to sustainable development.
It's been incredible to delve into this topic with you. From those early days of printing little plastic trinkets, we've seen 3D printing evolve into a technology with the potential to reshape industries, push the boundaries of human ingenuity, and perhaps even change the way we live and interact with our built environment.
It truly is a transformative technology, and we're really only just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible with 3D printing.
So, for our listeners who are eager to continue exploring this fascinating topic, we challenge you to imagine what you would create if 3D printing limitations were a thing of the past. What kind of innovative structure, groundbreaking tool, or personalized living space would you bring to life? Share your ideas with us. We can't wait to hear your vision of the future. Until then, keep those imaginations firing because the future of building is looking very bright.